going to go through a couple of sort of the starter points where we bring all our entrepreneurs through, and some of the big ticket items that we make them really think about as they start building their startups. And you can move on to this next slide, Justin. But why are we doing this, and who the heck are we? League of Innovators. We are not a superhero league, although we have a pretty cool name. We are a national charity in Canada. We work with young entrepreneurs across the country. We provide a bunch of different programs, not just the Labs Incubator. We work in high schools and universities to really expose young people to the concept of entrepreneurship, to the concept of being able to start up your business when you're young, not having to go do degrees or go have extensive work experience, but also have young people recognize that entrepreneurial skills and the tools that we learn through the process are really applicable to any career path that you're going to have, and they're going to be really valuable in your own career future. But our biggest goal really is to mobilize this next generation of youth to really have these skills. And then for those that are starting businesses and are considering this path, to really help them build those businesses to a point where they can grow, they can scale. We've been doing this for a number of years. We had a different name before. We've got a community of young entrepreneurs across the country, upwards of 200 young entrepreneurs now, with some of them in the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, some Peter Field Fellows, a lot of different entrepreneurs that have gone to other accelerators across the country and into the United States. Next, thank you. So that's our vision, which I already talked about. Next slide. Apologies about the awkward me telling Justin to move on with the slides, but this is how we'll do it. At the end, and so we work with young entrepreneurs across the country in many different pockets. That is one part of our mandate, is to not only work in the big city centers, but really support youth across the many different regions across the country and the many different metropolitan and rural communities in Canada. This is our team. On the call today is me, Joanna. I'm the executive director of the League of Innovators. I've been working at the League since before it was the League, since it was called The Next Big Thing in 2015. Our board of directors is made up of our founder, Ryan Holmes, the founder of Hootsuite, and many others like Michelle Romano and Chad Bain, Manny Pata, Swish Goswami, other serial entrepreneurs that are really active in the Canadian ecosystem. Our team is amazing. Not on the call today is Manisha Narula, who's our director of community and education, and she really works closely with myself and our team of volunteers on the ground across the country to really deliver entrepreneur programming in high schools and universities. But on the call, we do have with us today Annika Louie, who is our market manager in BC. She runs a big part of our labs programming and also works closely with all our entrepreneurs and partners on the ground in the region. As well on the call is Justin Masser. He's our market manager in Alberta, supporting all our entrepreneurs on the ground within the Alberta and Prairie region. But also works closely on all the programming that's delivered in labs. All right. And just to give you an idea of the breadth of programs, labs is not the only thing that we do. And that's what makes our programming really unique, is we believe that we have to be an end-to-end solution. We can't just come in and one part of the work that we do with youth and really develop a relationship that's ongoing. Many of our young entrepreneurs that we've worked with for many years through many different programs, and continue to engage with them in different capacities now. But essentially, through our Innovators Academy and our crash courses, we really focus on that discovery piece where we just expose young people to entrepreneurship, innovation, have them really get inspired by the potential of what it can offer them and offer their communities. At this point, we bring a lot of our alumni into the conversation to just provide examples and being a role model of what youth entrepreneurship could really look like. And starting with foundations, it's really our acceleration arm of our work. With foundations, it's really idea stage focus, having entrepreneurs think through how do we actually filter an idea to figure out whether it's an idea worth pursuing? I have control of your system, Justin. Really? I don't think so. You're messing with me, Justin. Now it says I can control the screen, but I don't know how.
Oh, don't worry. I'll just keep doing it.
Hold on. Let me do it.
There we go. That's you.
That's me?
Yep.
No. Oh my God. No, I don't know. Who's that? Is that me? Yeah, that's me. Okay. Obviously, we've got challenges with technology, despite all the things that we do. With Labs, which we'll talk about in a second, we really work with those early stage entrepreneurs that are building their startups, and Launch is our accelerator, where we work with entrepreneurs that have raised the seed series and typically are in the $1 million+ range in revenues, really helping them get through the next stage of challenges that entrepreneurs face as they build their startups. Again, a really big focus on providing programming that doesn't have cliffs and really supports youth across their journey in building their startups. We really focus, whether we're going to a high school or whether going to university or whether we're in one of our programs, we really try to bring this kind of innovator's mindset into all our programming and into really having entrepreneurs think about their potential and the potential of what they're building from this innovator perspective. And what is that innovator mindset? What does that really mean? The first and foremost part of that is that you're really problem centric. You're coming at it from the problem perspective. No matter what kind of startup you're building, the success of what you're trying to build is going to be really centered on, are you actually solving a real problem for somebody? That is the very first problem you're going to be trying to solve in your startup journey. Solving problems as a founder is going to be one of the critical parts of your path. Anybody that's a serial entrepreneur, has been a successful entrepreneur, can tell you that that is such a big part of being an entrepreneur. And so this is something we really try to bring into all our programs, really having everybody think about how do you solve problems and give you the tools to do that. At the end of the day, the business model is not your whole startup, is really built, is the product that you're trying to get out of in this early stage. What is that business model that you're trying to replicate? As a startup, the reality is that you are in this constant phase of trying to land on a business model that's replicable and scalable. And so the startup phase is really focused on that. And a lot of the times founders will get really stuck on one model when it doesn't actually serve them, doesn't solve the problem, doesn't actually, really engage with the customers that they're trying to engage with. So it's really important to really think about it, that the business model is just the product of your startup journey, and that constant search for a model that will be replicable and scalable. In this phase that all of you are probably at as you start up in your startup journey, traction is really the goal. You're trying to find a moment where you're gaining customers, where you're growing your customer base. That looks different depending on what kind of startup you are, whether you're business to business, whether you're business to consumer, whether you're a CPG, or you're an online platform. That traction is going to look different. And so in these early days, you have to figure out what traction is going to mean to you. And so thinking about that from the very beginning. Making decisions based on evidence. Again, this sort of comes back to the traction point. How are you going to know you're going to have traction? You're going to have to set metrics that will allow you to track that, track your growth or decline. I mean, it depends on what happens in your startup and what you're able to validate or not validate. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to make decisions about your progress in the startup, and you can only make that based on real evidence that you get based on the metrics you're going to gather from your customers, maybe from your stakeholders, maybe from the internet, whatever that may be. You're going to be gathering information. That information is going to allow you to make better informed decisions. The biggest issue we see, especially in the Canadian startup ecosystem, and people will tell you this, not just in the this early phase of startup, or whether we're talking to young people, this is across the field, across age categories, sectors, etc., It's thinking big. This is what we always have a challenge with in Canada. And so we want to make sure that all of you are thinking really big about, what the potential of your startup is. And it's not just to become, a unicorn. It's about what can you really create? What kind of change can you have in the world? And so whether you apply to our program or not, I would encourage you to really think 10 times bigger than you think you can or you want to or you think is even possible. Because some of the people that we see really creating traction and growing, they are the ones that are thinking really big about the growth and impact that they have with their startup. And no matter what, you're going to have to get comfortable with failure. It's part of the journey. It's actually part of any journey in life. And it's a good one to get comfortable with. And it's okay because failure is just an opportunity for us to learn, move on, and do things better or do things differently. Next, that's me. And so again, so this is like innovators mindset. What are the 5 real areas that we focus on? Obviously in our programs, we focus on many different parts, from marketing to legal to operations to HR. But at the beginning, this is what we really want to laser focus on. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And who are you trying to solve this for? Who are your customers? Being as specific and as niche as you can be is going to serve you really well as you start building your company. Without having a really clear idea and picture of who your customers are, you're not going to be able to solve a problem for them, because people in different categories, demographic categories, different preference categories, they're going to have different problems, and that problem is going to present itself differently to that customer group. So being really clear about the customers you have, what is the problem that they're encountering, how are they encountering it, and how can you solve that for them? The third area that we really want everybody to focus on is market. What is the market you are entering? Too often, startup founders will sort of gloss over this area. We'll do nice slides about the size of the market being $4 billion, $10 billion, and they're going to carve out 5% of that. That's not a realistic sort of picture of the market. Yeah, that's the very high level blue sky way to look at the opportunity in the market, but that's not really saying, hey, this is the market that I'm going to. This is the region and the country that I'm starting out with. These are the competitors that are here. These are the alternatives in the market that people choose without having my solution or another solution in the market. So really, really understanding the market that you're entering, the competitors in the market, the alternatives people use, what does the regional market look like, what are the forces within it, what are the challenges and threats that also exist. Those are all really important facts that you need to understand, and you want to be the one that's the expert on that market that you're entering. The entrepreneurs that we see really gain traction, be successful in their startups, are the ones that truly understand the market from a 360 perspective, understanding all the opportunities that exist within that market, the competitors, but also all the different threats and challenges that are there, so that they're able to actually build a startup and build a plan for themselves that is able to mitigate the challenges and the threats that exist there. The fourth focus is really on that product market fit. And that is when you find product market fit is when you truly start gaining traction. This is also like a magical, mythical equation that people talk about, product market fit. It's being in the right market with the right product at the right time with the right customers, right? And that's when you find fit, and that's when you start gaining traction. When we look at companies like Shopify, we look at companies even like the Facebooks, there's an equation that happens there, and it is about finding the right market with the right product at the right time with the right customers. And obviously that's really big and ambiguous, and it depends on the type of startup you're building, the type of product you're creating, for the type of customers that you're trying to attract. But really always thinking about what am I meeting? Am I getting closer to a product market fit? And this is where this fifth focus really becomes important. You can never figure out whether you have product market fit until you really are measuring something, right? So figuring out what metrics are going to allow you to determine whether you're growing, whether you're finding traction. You're going to have to really think about the metrics that come into play in your startup. So these are 5 areas. we focus on this throughout our programs, and especially in the labs program, as we try to get you over the 12 weeks into a point where you're able to get into a moment of scale where you can get seed funding, and really get ready for that growth. And so what is Labs? Labs is an incubator program, 12 weeks long, virtually delivered. There are no fees for the program. And this is one of the things people ask us. They're like, oh my gosh, is there no fees? Why? And it's because we are a national charity and our mandate is to support young entrepreneurs across this country. It's really to be that unbiased partner in the room that can provide you a really honest opinion and a real honest feedback about what you're doing, and about your trajectory, and about being that support partner over the long run, not just through one program, but ongoing. We do not take equity in any of the startups that join us in any of our programs. You get to keep 100% of your company. There'll be plenty of people that will come after your equity later on. What that means is that also we do not give any investments or funding to our startups. We do connect people to potential investors and angel networks. And again, no strings attached. What that really means, because we don't take equity, we don't charge you fees. We're there to see you grow and succeed. And sometimes that means it's the startup you're building with us in the incubator, or sometimes it means that startup's not going to work out and your next startup might, or the third startup that you start will. And we're there to support you as a founder through that. And so what will you get through the program? You will, through the 12 weeks, you really get our support in building your roadmap for growth in your startup and the particular things that you really need to do. You get visibility within the Canadian investment and startup ecosystem. Because we're national and because we work closely with partners across the many different startup ecosystems, you get automatics for visibility in those that may be harder. You know, you may be in Halifax, you may be in Winnipeg, but now you've got an opportunity to really get embedded into, let's say, the Ontario ecosystem or the BC ecosystem. You not only get that community, but you also get access to a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs that come into the program to do AMAs, to run webinars, as well as industry experts from across the country. You get access to our library of resources and hacks for early stage success, and just tools and skills that will help you along the journey as you start building your startup. You get access to the startup ecosystems, and really an experience, because you're doing this now with a cohort of entrepreneurs that you may have never met, or you may have never known that actually existed. And that in itself is an incredible community to be part of. And we really believe that in order for you to move forward with your startup, you got to start now, even when you don't have a plan, when you don't know all the answers. Everybody that will come and talk through the program, whether they're a serial entrepreneur or an investor or even subject matter expert, will tell you everybody started at step one, even though success looks really great after they've been doing it for 12, 18 years, 20 years. When they started on day one, they were not in a dissimilar place to where you are. And so what does Labs include specifically? Again, it's 12 weeks of virtual programming. So the programming does happen online. So you need to have a good internet connection. Our AMAs and webinars happen through Zoom, as we're today on Zoom. So they happen on this platform over that 12 weeks. Typically in a week, you get a webinar and an AMA. That will also be supported through office hours that we have with subject matter experts, such as legal, such as branding, such as sales experts. But you also have office hours with the League of Innovators team to really guide you and support you through the many different facets of what you're trying to build and the many different challenges that will pop up, whether that's issues you're having with co-founders, or figuring out how to get technical talent into your startup, or maybe just figuring out whether what you're doing makes sense, and do you need to pivot or do you need to iterate. Throughout the program, we do use and work with Ash Moria with the Lean Stack. So he's the founder of the Lean Canvas. We use the Lean Canvas model to get everybody through really thinking about their startup from the customer and problem-centric perspective, as we talked about, the innovator's mindset. So we work with them. Ash does come into the program and talk to everybody about just ways and strategies to use the Lean Canvas. We do set you up with mentors, but only after you graduate from the program. So you do get set up with a mentor post-program completion after the 12 weeks, because we believe you'll be better prepared to actually work with a mentor, and we'll be better able to match you with somebody that actually is going to help you at that moment in time. There's a lot of things that happen throughout the 12 weeks, and we don't want to overwhelm you as well. I anticipate that many people that enter the program are either in school part-time or full-time, have other jobs, have other commitments, and are really trying to figure out how to make this a full-time gig. And so we want to make sure that we also provide you value not only in the program, but post-program completion. There you get tools, resources, and we already talked about access to the networks that you get to be part of. Although most of the program happens online, we do have regional nodes that we're building out. What that means is that we have people on the ground in those regions, and that we do some in-person activities within those regions. In terms of the people that we have on the ground, they're us, the team, the League of Innovators team, but we also have entrepreneurs and residents that you get matched up with that are on the ground. Currently, our regional nodes are actually there's a fourth one in Victoria. It's Vancouver, Victoria, Toronto, Calgary. We're hoping that in 2020 we'll have another one, Winnipeg, to support the prairies. So in those nodes, what happens is we do in-person meetups throughout the program. But also what that means at the end of the program, we run a full-day boot camp in each one of those regional nodes, as well as a founder showcase where you get to pitch investors. More about the regional nodes. And this is just a quick overview of what the program entails, what type of topics and concepts we talk about. It's really everything from like, why are you here as a founder, all the way to how do you pitch an investor, how to get investment, what kind of investment do you really need to think about, and then the exit is part of the founder showcase, but also not that we say, at the exit, we say goodbye to you and never see you again, but really help you build out a roadmap for the next 6 to 12 months post-program completion so you can really get going with your startup. Again, content delivery. We have virtual workshops. We've got plenty of workbooks that you can really work through to get your startup up and running. AMAs with the likes of Ryan and Michelle Romano and Brooks Croxon, and then again, one-on-one coaching that you get throughout the program. Again, this is more about the mentorship program. And as mentioned earlier, we do set you up with a mentor post-program completion based on what you need and what we think is a good fit for you moving forward. Important things, what makes you eligible for the program. For labs, we are working with entrepreneurs that are age 25 or younger. You have a dedicated commitment to taking your business to the next level. You obviously have access to a computer and then the internet. Why that's important is because so much of our program is virtually delivered. You do need to have internet access to some degree. You need to be able to, in some cases, call in if you can't get on the internet. A lot of our, because we're using Zoom, you can call into those Zoom calls as well. Some of them are actually recorded and posted up on our internal labs portal. Big thing is you're not afraid to work hard. It may seem pretty easy when we put it on a slide, 12 weeks, a bunch of virtual webinars, a bunch of coaching sessions. But the reality is 12 weeks, we don't expect you just to show up in the program. You have to work on your startup and actually start implementing a lot of this. Sometimes entrepreneurs come to us, they apply, they have an incredible idea, they get into the program and they recognize just that showing up at a webinar isn't enough. You have to actually apply all the things that you learned through that and all the different concepts or ideas that you hear from serial entrepreneurs, you have to apply that to your own startup in your own community. And that can be really hard. So you got to be ready to do that work. And you're obviously eager to grow your network and meet other young entrepreneurs as well as other people in the ecosystem. The entrepreneurs that have said, that have had the most amount of success in our programming and that have really enjoyed the programming and getting the most out of it are the ones that really take advantage of growing their network, of meeting everybody from the entrepreneurs that are in the program to us, to all the incredible entrepreneurs and residents that come into the program and support you, to our serial entrepreneurs. That is really the value of this, is this network that's layered on another network, that's layered on another network. And that is where we know so much official business happens, is in all these networks and knowing people. These are some of our partners that we work with that support us, from Hootsuite to RBC, Shaw, Microsoft. Many of these come into the program in many different facets, from speaking and sharing their experience to offering credits and part of our venture package to our entrepreneurs. There's lots of different ways to engage with our partners as well. But the important reason this is up is to know that this program is supported through the ecosystem across Canada and beyond. And that brings me to the end of my talking. Obviously, I just covered a lot from just some of the things that we consider important in startup, but also about the program. It's a different model than a lot of people use. So curious, do you guys have questions about labs, or even about just what to do? I've got a business idea. What do I do next? And you can put your question in the chat, or you can come off mute and just ask it.
Hi, so I have a quick question regarding the programming. You mentioned that it's going to be online, so is it like a certain time frames? Like, for example, this webinar is in the morning from 9 a.m. Would that be what the future programming would be like too, or is it going to be at nighttime or any other times within the day?
Yeah, so typically the webinars and AMAs happen at 10 a.m. PST, but a lot of them are also recorded. So those that are in school or working can watch them after. There's other components of the program, like our venture huddles, office hours, that happen at different times. And we sort of try to work with everybody in the program to make sure that, especially for the venture huddles, office hours, that people that are working or on the East Coast are able to access the programming. Oh, Annie, I think you're on mute.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions about the programming, or even maybe the application process? The application process is pretty quick. It's 15 questions in a form, pretty straightforward. You can include decks, videos, etc. That's not a requirement. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys to apply to the program.
I'll also pop the application link in the chat here too.
Great, thank you, Justin.
Hi there, I just had a question. What exactly is the AMA?
Oh, it's a great question. So, and the AMAs are Ask Me Anythings. So there are sessions, and there are sessions that we run with folks like, let's say, Ryan Holmes or Chip Wilson from Lululemon. They'll come on, they'll do a quick 10-minute, talk about they'll share their experience about their entrepreneurial journey, and literally the rest of the hour is the cohort asking them questions that they have about their journey, about advice, about anything that they want. Like literally, it's Ask Me Anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hear me?
Zach,
Yes.
do you have a question?
Oh yeah, I have a. So I'm part of a Startup Edmonton here in Edmonton. For the question model, do you want us to go through like the different channels, customers, revenue?
That's really breaking up. I can't hear. I can't.
Oh, okay. I'll type it out.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Just type it out and then we can answer it. Yeah, and just a note on the Ask Me Anythings or AMAs, it's a great opportunity where our entrepreneurs actually get to also at the same time while asking a question, pitch all of these incredible entrepreneurs, which is a great way to grow your network and just meet everybody that you would otherwise not have access to. And Zach's just typing the question. Oh, there you go. Okay, so Zach's got a question about question 8. I'm assuming on the form. Do you want us to go through each section of the business model? I've done the lean canvas model at Startup Edmonton. No, so what we're talking, question 8, just tell us what your business model is. Like, how are you going to create revenue? You don't have to write the whole lean canvas in that question. Just like, what is the business model here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you can attach your lean canvas if you want to in the optional section if you want us to take a look at it.
So I have one more quick question. On the applications, then not all startups will be vetted through and like make it to the next round. So what do you really look for in an application that I guess would stand out to you and make you want to go with them to the next stage?
Sure, great question, Annie. So what are we really looking for? So there are 3 main areas we look for. One is we look at the founder or founders. Who are they? Are they serious about their startup? Why did they start this? Does it actually make sense? One of the things we're trying to gauge there is, are you going to be invested into the program? Are you going to take the time to really work on your startup? And you know, is this not just like it's not just a school project, you're actually wanting to build this startup. And so we don't look at grades, we don't look at, you know, your previous experience, we're just looking at like, why are you creating what you're creating? The second thing we look for is your startup idea. Does it make sense? Is it novel? Is it something that's actually solving a problem for a customer? And then the third thing that we look at is the potential for that startup to either have impact from the perspective of is it scalable and can it grow? Or the other impact side, which is like, is this actually creating real social environmental value in the world? So we've got a pretty, and that's not exclusively what we look for in terms of just like social and environmental impact. It's one of the things that we see entrepreneurs coming to us with. So if it's not, you know, if it's not something that's, you know, going to have a network effect, is it something that's actually creating real impact in the world?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? Justin and Annika, do you guys have any comments?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the feedback that we've gotten from the last batch was that not only are you really empowered by this expert content and like this really powerful network of like large Canadian serial entrepreneurs who can really, you never know what happens in the AMAs, connections get made, and it can really change the trajectory of your business. But there's also that piece of like why Ryan Holmes started the League of Innovators in the first place, which is around creating this network for young entrepreneurs. I don't know if you know, but he was a young entrepreneur himself, and he found the experience to be really powerful for himself, but also quite isolating. So the goal of this is that you also walk away with not only the connections you've made in the program through all these weekly webinars and huddles and office hours, but you also get connected to our larger alumni community who can really help mentor you and be there for you and relate to your experience. And that's something that we think is really powerful for you as well. I would also say that we do have like an optional in-person part of the program at the very end, which is our Founders Showcase. And that's really an opportunity for you to meet other people in the startup ecosystem, pitch your business to the community, a panel of investors, learn about next steps, and really at the forefront of it, connect with everyone in the LOI community and get that face-to-face interaction and build those kind of relationships that take you even beyond the 12 weeks of the program itself.
Mm-hmm.
So those founders showcases happen across the country. They happen twice a year, and this year they happened in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto. So the closest one to you, Zach, would probably be the Calgary one, which we run in partnership with Platform Calgary.
Hi there, Isha here. So regarding the innovation showcases, is there any support available for students to travel to, say if it's in Calgary, from students in Edmonton to travel, or students or what, the participants from Edmonton to travel to Calgary?
Yeah, so funding for travel is something that we're really working towards, but you'll also see throughout the program that all the people who are around Calgary actually like start connecting, and then we've seen people carpooling around to come to the founder showcases together and really make that work. There's also an option to pitch virtually if you aren't able to make it in person, because it is optional.
And we were able to get like a group rate for a hotel near Platform as well this last year. So help out a little bit that way.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. Great questions, everybody. And yeah, Isha, as Annika said, we're working on trying to find funding because we do obviously have entrepreneurs all over the place, and not everybody is just in Calgary and Vancouver and Toronto. Many are outside of those regions. So we're really trying to work to figure out how to support all those entrepreneurs that are in other regions. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Is there something you're really looking for or need right now that you're trying to find through a program like Labs?
My only comment here is that there are resources available for young entrepreneurs, like the Lean Canvas and connections to mentors via, say, Startup Edmonton. So the only thing is that we should, any other program should not try to duplicate it, because these young people are already so busy with their classes, their part-time jobs, and so on. So having something virtually is great. But even with the content, I believe that there should be less duplication and more value add and diversity in the kind of mentors that a program brings. So
Yeah. I mean, just to answer your question, so we work closely with Ash Moria that developed the Lean Canvas, and so what we bring into the program is not the not the first exposure that everybody has to Lean Canvas, which is just like, how do you use the Lean Canvas? We work with him on the next steps. So he's got programming in his Lean stack that really focuses on scale up startups. And that's what we work with everybody through. So it's not that initial Lean Canvas concept that you probably got exposed to in Edmonton. And we definitely try not to duplicate anything that anybody else is doing, but really try to provide value for our entrepreneurs and the mentors and the entrepreneurs and residents that everybody gets matched with. They don't, like, for instance, if you're in Edmonton, Isha, you might get matched with somebody in Ontario as your entrepreneur in residence that can really support you. So we really try, our goal is to really expand your network as well. But that's great comments.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely don't want you to, we know, we try to get everybody to speak the common language because we know not everybody's gone and done the Lean Canvas, but we also want everybody to really gain value and sort of get to that next stage of building their startup.
Hi there, it's Dio again.
All right.
So basically, just like Zach, I've gone through some of the programs at Startup Edmonton as well.
Yeah.
So I have gone through what they have called pre-flight beta, which is creating many different iterations of the Lean Canvas model.
Right.
I've gone through pre-flight 1, which is the customer validation, pre-flight 2, building the MVP, and pre-flight 3, which is basically telling the story and learning to pitch. So I'm just wondering, how would a program like Labs help me at my stage, considering I've built my product, I've consistently been seeking customer validation, and at this point I'm looking for a pilot program test to move things forward?
That's a great question, Dio. So if you've done that, if you've got an MVP, you've validated your customers. So just to be clear, like Lean Canvas is just one part of the work that we do with our founders. The rest of the program is really getting you in front of the startup community. It's also getting you in front of subject matter experts that now you're building a company. You're not only, validating your startup, you're trying to build a company, you're finding technical talent, you're building a brand, you're trying to market your product out there, gain more traction, build a sales funnel. So it's sort of what you've gone through. It's Labs is sort of the next stage. You've got a startup, great, we validated it, now you got to grow it. And so really building the foundations of that startup so that you can hire a team, you can gain investment, et cetera. So many, just to give you an idea of our alumni base, we've got 75% of the startups in the Labs program typically have already are sort of in that phase. They've validated the customers, they are growing, they are typically in, I would say out of the 75%, about 50% are in the process of seeking funding. Sometimes that's funding and like equity investment, or sometimes that's non-dilutive funding, like through Futurepreneur, BDC, a bank, etc. So we really help them figure out what that looks like. How do you actually create systems within your startup that can actually get you ready to take on investment and then to scale?
And also all the AMAs and everything that's going on, you can directly ask these people that you wouldn't normally have access to a question in time and get an answer right away. So, and it'll be directly relevant to what you're working on right now.
Yeah.
Great, sounds good, thanks.
Yeah. And just us on that question as well, that's a great question because the reality is that not everybody in the program has gone through Lean Canvas, but also some people have. So some people that come to us, they come from like Next Canada, they've gone through other accelerators or incubators, and then there's a portion that haven't. So essentially what we're trying to do with the folks that haven't done it, we get them up to speed before they start up with us. Through the Lean Canvas, so we don't make you do it again. We get you to sort of like work with us on that next stage, whatever that is with you. And so this is why, obviously there's general programming that happens. AMA is that you're going to find value with with no matter what. But this is why we do office hours. This is why we really try to also cater to each individual entrepreneur, an entrepreneurial team, to figure out like, what do you really need at this stage? Who do you need to talk to? What do you really need to do? And it's not just like bringing everybody. It's not a class. We're not going to grade you on anything. It's not about that. That's not the most important. That's not the important part. We care about what you're doing and what your startup is doing. Great questions, everybody. Anything else? We've got just a couple of minutes left. Any burning questions? And I will say, I mean, Annika's already said it, but and I think I've said it before, but like the most as great as our programming is, even though we believe it's great, because the people that come to the program, whether they're subject matter experts or whether they're, the Ryans and the Chips, is really this network of entrepreneurs you're going to be privy to, that you're going to be part of, that is really part of your community. And we really mean it. They're an incredible group of people that now, some of those entrepreneurs that have gone through our programming, again, have raised multiple rounds of funding, or are growing, but are also there to be your mentors, be your supporters as well, and really provide that opportunity to grow as a community. So I would say that is probably one of the most important and powerful parts of the program that we offer, is a national community. When you can go to Toronto or Vancouver or Calgary or into the Atlantic provinces and know that there's somebody there that can, that automatically you can connect with and be like, hey, I was part of this, and now, do you have people I need to meet out here? And that is, I think sometimes people gloss that over, but that is actually one of the most powerful items of, I would say, any program, right? Is the community and the network that it represents. And that is a big thing as you start building your startup and just like your career.
Totally. And it's also like being able to like make those connections with a sales expert, with a PR expert, with a branding firm, with lawyers from Osler. So like wherever you are in your startup journey, whether you're at the stage deal where you're validating your product, or you're at the stage where you're trying to work through the lean canvas, you have those people through the labs program in your back pocket to say, okay, now I'm ready to raise my seed round. I'm going to go back and ask for more advice from the PR expert I met during labs, and I'm going to really tap into that network now because that makes sense for exactly where I'm at. Or maybe you're at that stage right now and that's going to happen during the 12 weeks of labs. Whatever that is, I don't think you can really discount the value of that.
No, and another part that we didn't mention is with the founder showcases. So obviously, end of program, you get to pitch, or you have an option to pitch. People opt out if they're not ready, or they found they had to pivot too much. But we open up the founder showcase pitching to also our alumni. So for instance, if maybe you weren't ready, or maybe suddenly like 6 months later is when, after the program, is when you actually want to pitch like Manny Pata and Ryan and a bunch of like real institutional investors, you can come back and pitch through that as well. So. And then I know we're almost out of time, but for all of you on the call and anybody that's going to watch after, if you've got any questions about the program, our emails are online, so just feel free to email us. No, there's no stupid questions. Everything goes. So if you've got a question, just feel free to email us and we'll get back to you. And we hope and we look forward to seeing your applications in the new year. All right, everybody. So with that, thank you so much for joining us today. We really look forward to seeing your applications and hopefully interacting with you in the new year. Have an awesome Thursday and have a great holiday.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.